Is Tomlin good at making adjustments during the game? Because it seems like he's just big on doing what we do. Also, do you think if Bill Belichick was our coach this season with our talent, would we be having these same type of issues?
Whoa.
That's actually a good question.
Hot topic. Hot question.
It's super hot. I like it. Got me sweating a little bit.
I think you're way better to answer this because I like Tomlin. Like, if you put his resume up to any other coach in the league, he's in like top 3 or 4. So I really have no complaints there with him.
Yeah. In terms of the adjustment that Tomlin makes, I hate when I have to answer like this in terms of like saying technically both things are true. In terms of Coach Tomlin is one of the most bullheaded, stubborn people I know when it pertains to calls. In terms of because he spends so much time preparing for opponents. He knows tendencies like crazy. I mean, you just ask this guy, hey man, third down, like what are they typically doing? Oh man, they want to attack it to the flats. They're going to get in bunch, 80% of the time, and they're trying to do outbreaking routes. That's what we're going to run cover 2. We're going to run in man-to-man. But if we do go man-to-man, we'll probably be 2-man because I want to have protection on both sides. Like he's that like genius with it, right? But at the same time, it hurts him because he's so confident, believes in it so much that even though his plan might work, if the execution isn't there, right? We talked about, okay, if you're going to run some of these things, all right,
everything's gonna be perfect.
Right, technique wise has to be perfect. We talked about the man-to-man with Vince and Avery, right, and the confusion in Washington. It's like great plan. The plan was perfect, but the execution lagged, right? But if that's going to continue, you would have to adjust it. Sometimes with Coach Tomlin, he'll still be believing that, man, the execution will catch up. That, hey, you'll get the execution, you'll execute, you'll get it. And then you look up and it's 4 times now that it hasn't worked. And then he finally is like, all right, I'll make the switch. That is his biggest flaw to me when you're talking about his in-game adjustments. Situation in terms like clock management, sure, you can get onto that. And people will debate that because with clock management, everybody has different philosophies in terms of the aggression that you want, passiveness that you want, being smart. It's a lot that goes into that. But in terms of just his overall philosophy when it pertains to adjustments, that to me is the biggest thing. But when he does make the adjustments, typically he's money. And we saw that. We talked about it earlier. The biggest adjustment he made in the second half, they kept running the zone read with Ryan Finley. Typically, the reason why zone reads work at the NFL level is because at the NFL level, you never have to account for the quarterback. Collegiately, you got to account for the quarterback. So collegiately, you're like, DN, you're going to take this dive every time. Inside linebacker, your job is to take the quarterback every time. Collegiately, you can do that because the quarterbacks are more of a factor. But then also the quarterbacks aren't as dynamic passing either. At the NFL level, it's the reverse. Typically at the NFL level, these guys excel throwing the ball, but they don't run that same threatening level. So you can have a DN typically take both guys. You can have TJ Watt, Alex Heisman say, hey, look, I want you to play the dive. If the quarterback pulls it, react back and make the tackle. Typically, you can do that. Finley was a little bit more athletic than I think any of us anticipated. And we saw the success that he was having, especially on these perimeter runs where he was pulling it. The adjustment they made was what, though? Minka, I want you to play this as if it was cover 0. Your job solely is to if this quarterback pulls it, that's who you have.
Yeah.
Great adjustment. Great execution. Gutsy as heck, though. Super gutsy. We talked about that earlier. Super gutsy, but it worked. And that is the adjustments. Those are the things that Coach Tomlin is capable of. My only thing I would ask is that he assert himself more offensively, but in Pittsburgh and just the way it's been set up because of him and Ben's relationship and the trust for each other, he will never cross that line to doing some of those in-game adjustments offensively. It'd be more philosophical. It'll be more of a philosophical adjustment in terms of, hey,
run the ball.
I want us to run the ball more. Or, hey, I want us to take a shot here. Or, hey, I want us to go more quick game. That's about the full extent of how hands-on he's going to be offensively. He allows Randy Fichtner, Ben, and Matt Canada to take full responsibility of that, which is common. I mean, you look at Belichick, that's what he does up in New England.
McDaniels.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Andy Reid is the flip side in terms of him controlling offense, but you got the coordinators doing the defense. Like, everyone has a different way that they handle it. I just think with Coach Tomlin, because he is so smart in terms of knowing how to, number one, minimize the offense, but number two, he understands how he could be attacked defensively. I think he is smart enough to understand and use some of those concepts to help the offense out as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've never seen him do it in terms of being more assertive like that, because he typically, like I said, he defers to the offensive guys from that standpoint, because he knows that's not his quote unquote strong suit. But just even me, like when you're around the game for so long and you study and you understand big picture, because that's another thing, like being able to see big picture philosophies, the thought process behind it. He's on that level. When you're there, I feel like you can be more assertive on either side of the ball. And that's, like I said, one thing that I would want to see more of him. And with Belichick, I mean, let's be real. Belichick's a great coach, without a doubt. Would he be having success? Sure. But at the same time, he struggled last year with that whole situation that they had in New England, man, when their offense started struggling a little bit. And people will criticize the receivers, but my rebuttal is this. You criticize those receivers, they had a ton of drops. But people act like the Steelers are leading the league in drops as well. Like, you're still seeing similar issues in both scenarios. Difference is, even with the defense, I mean, Coach Tomlin's done a great job of keeping his defense playing at a high level throughout the year, whereas with New England last year, and the reason I keep saying last year, because that was, I feel like it was most similar in terms of talent and play style, right? Both had quarterbacks that were good, but aging a little bit. Both had receiving situations where they were having a ton of drops. Both offensive lines were average, I mean, that's pretty much where they were, average, no real dominant run game.
Defense solid.
Defense were really good.
Tailed off a little bit.
Absolutely. So that's why I keep comparing the two. So to me, I don't view what Belichick did last year in that scenario better than what Coach Tomlin's doing this year in this scenario. I don't think that Belichick could come in here and, this team would be still undefeated right now. I don't think that would happen either. I just think,
you're seeing it this year, but I mean, it's been eye-opening just because you've seen with the Patriots, absolutely, how long they've done it. And these last 2 years for them, it's different. Personnel gets a little bit different. Mm-hmm. You go on a run. I think he even mentioned this. He's like, what do you want me to do? Like, we sold out for championships our last couple years. So I think their cap's all messed up. You could just tell they're a little bit off with their players and everything. Yeah. So it's like you said. I don't know. I think we're fine with where we're at with Tomlin.
But to me, I'm like that. Yeah, I don't think Belichick or any other coach would come in here and do some better job. I think less about head coach. If we want to talk coordinator stuff, that's different.
Like, I mean, McDaniel,
right? Not even McDaniel. I mean, we talked about Brian Daboll up in Buffalo. He's an offensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy, we know about him. I mean, we obviously seen how Stefanski, even though he's a head coach now, how he was traditionally an OC. Like, if we're talking that's a difference. But comparing, I mean, we're talking about going Belichick to Tomlin, like, that's not that big of a jump to me. I understand people say, well, look at how many rings he's had. But then you can also point and say, well, look at how many scandals he's had as well. I mean, it's a lot that goes into
scandals, having Brady.
Yeah, like it's a lot that goes into it, man. So that's my biggest thing with that, man. I don't think that gap is just so astronomical as people like to try to make it sound. That's all. That segment was brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sports booking app. Not only is it safe, but it's secure, and the most important part, it's reliable. And for all the first-time users out there, we got a promo code. You know the promo code. We like promo codes, right? Who doesn't like a little bit of a promo code? Promo code is Moats. Moats. If you use that promo code, what do you see? It's a deposit bonus. What's the amount?
A decent amount.
It's a nice
$1,000. $1,000.
That's a lot of money. Deposit bonus money. That's free money on top of it. So what exactly are you waiting on? Download the app, use the promo code Moats, and get an opportunity to make a little money.